Hey everybody, it's Teresa. Welcome to my channel. I'm going to make a necklace and a bracelet and a pair of earrings today, and I'm going to use some of the beads and bindings that came in the most recent bargain bead box, the one for August 2025. It's called Bohemian Nights. I don't usually make 3 pieces at once, but I just couldn't help myself because I thought this box was so pretty. I mean, I always love their boxes, but I just thought this one was especially pretty. I have a coupon code for the bargain bead box. It's Teresa2, and I'll put it on the screen here and in the description box below, along with a link to the page to sign up for the subscription if you're interested. The coupon will save you $2 off your first box if you sign up. So in here I've got the lantern beads that came in the box. And here I've got the 8mm magnesite beads that came in the box. And here I've got the 6mm synthetic turquoise beads that came in the box. I've got the bead caps that came in the box, the spacer beads that came in the box. I've got this really pretty pendant that came in the box, and I attached it to a bail from my stash. And I used the, if I can get a hold of it there, I could just pick it up with my hand. I had this bail in my stash that I got from Bead Box Bargains, and I attached it with the jump ring that came on the pendant. I've got the toggle clasp that came, the fold-over toggle clasp that came in the box. The 2 star charms, I think that's what they were called, that came in the box. I'm going to use those for my earrings. Of course, I'm going to use the toggle clasp for my bracelet. I've got some 2x2 crimp tubes, some wire guardians, and some crimp covers. I've got some 5mm jump rings and one 8mm jump ring. I usually use either 4 or 6mm jump rings, but all of my 4 and 6mm jump rings are pretty thick. They were too thick to go through this chain that came in the box. It's got some pretty small links in it. And these 5mm jump rings that I have are 20 gauge. They're a thinner gauge than my 4 and 6mm, so they'll go through that chain. I've got a couple of ear wires, and I've got a couple of little seed beads in there that I'm going to put under my bail so that it doesn't hang directly, rub directly against the bead string wire. I've got a lobster clasp, a couple of pieces of the chain that came in the box. I've got a little bit of paperclip chain I'm going to use as an extender, and one of the moon charms that came in the box that I'm going to hang off the extender as an angle. I think that's everything in there. I don't know if I said I've got a couple of ear wires there. I've got a couple of pieces of 22 gauge German style wire I'm going to use when I make my earrings. I'm going to be using my soft flex beading wire in fine, and this is copper. I don't have any gold, but I'm going to cover it all up with beads so you won't be able to see the wire anyway. I'll be using all the same jewelry tools that I always use, and I've got my little New Orleans shot glass to put my wires in. When I cut them off, that'll just be when I make the earrings. So I'm going to go ahead and string my necklace up so y'all don't have to wait while I string all these little beads, and when I get back I'll show you what my pattern is and I'll crimp it. So I'll be back. Okay, I've got my necklace strung up here now, and I've got, so let me zoom in a little bit here. I've got bead caps around the 8mm beads. I've got 3 of the lantern beads, a spacer bead, 6mm, 8mm, 6mm spacer bead, 3 of the lantern beads, spacer bead, 6mm, 8mm, 6mm, spacer bead, 3 of the lantern beads, spacer bead, 8mm bead, spacer bead, 3 of the lantern beads, spacer bead, 6mm, 8mm, 6mm, spacer bead, 3 of the lantern beads, spacer bead, 6mm, 8mm, 6mm, 3 of the lantern beads. And then I've got my pendant on here, and I've got a couple of little seed beads under there so that the bail is not rubbing directly against the bead stringing wire. And then I've got the same thing on the other side, just mirrored this side. So now I'm going to crimp. So I'm going to take my crimp tube, put it on here, my wire guardian, Go down the other channel of the wire guardian. Go back into the crimp tube. I'll hold my wires apart so they don't get crossed in there. Now I'm going to take my crimping pliers, use that part with the tooth. I'll lay the tooth on top of my crimp tube and squeeze. That makes that little indentation in there. Now I like to use these other crimping pliers to fold my crimp. You can do it with these. There are 3 half circles on each side there, and you would use the middle one for the 2x2 crimp tubes. But I like to use these because the little half circles on the end of these are a little bit bigger, and I just find it easier to do it with these. So I'm going to lay my crimp tube in there and squeeze. Fold my crimp, give it a good tight squeeze. I'm going to tug. That's good. So now I'm going to cut off my extra wire. And I'm going to push all this down and crimp the other side. I'm going to cut this off of my spool. I'm going to take my crimp tube and put it on here. My wire guardian. Go down the other channel of my wire guardian. I think I might not have left myself hardly enough wire on this side. This might be a little difficult. Go back into the crimp tube. Now I try to go through a bead on this side if I can to get my hands out of the way and center my wire guardian over the last bead. Try to make sure my wires are not crossed in there. Hold on to my wire guardian and pull my wire through. I want to make sure there's no slack in my piece, but I don't want it to be too tight either. So I usually coil it up like this, and that usually keeps it from being too tight. So now I'm going to try to hold on to all this. It can be a little bit harder on this side. I'm going to take my crimping pliers again and use the part with the tooth. Lay the tooth on top of my crimp tube. Squeeze. I don't know if that worked or not. See if I can fold it and see if it worked. Lay my crimping pliers in there and squeeze. And now I uncrimped it. I'm going to try that again. I'm going to lay my tooth on top of my crimp tube. Squeeze. There, I think it worked that time. Now I'm going to fold my crimp. Put a good tight squeeze. Now I'm going to tug. That's good. So now I'm going to cut off my extra wire. Okay, so now I'm going to get my crimp covers and put them on here. This is my least favorite parts. Hold on, I'll be back. Okay, I've got one of my crimp covers on. I'm going to put my crimp cover on this other side now. So I'm going to lay my crimp cover over my crimp tube. And I'm going to use my crimp cover closing pliers because I need all the help I can get when it comes to fooling with crimp covers. First I'm going to close it just enough so that I don't have to hold it on here with my finger. Okay, now I'm going to go into that part that has the half circles on there, and I'm going to lay my crimp cover in there, and I just go back and forth from front to back and side to side until I get it closed. And it's usually never as bad as I think it's going to be. So there we go. So now I'm going to get my chain and the rest of my findings to put on here, and I'll be back. Okay, I'm going to put my chain on here. I know I've got a couple of pieces of the chain that came in the box. They're about 3 inches each. This came to about 15 inches, I think, once I got it crimped and everything, maybe a little more than that. Now I'm going to take my 5mm jump ring. Open it up, put it in this chain, put it on one side of my necklace. Close my jump ring back. Do that same thing on the other side. And I'm going to take another 5mm jump ring. Put it on this end. With my lobster clasp. Now I want an 8mm jump ring to go on this side, but my 8mm jump ring is too thick to go through this chain, so I'm going to have to attach it with a 5mm jump ring. And now I'm going to take my 8mm jump ring and open it up and put my extender chain on here. And now I've got another 5mm jump ring that I'm going to put my little moon charm on here with. There's my little dangle. And there's my necklace. Now I went ahead and made my bracelet and crimped it and everything because I did it just like I did the necklace. My pattern for it is I've got a 6mm. I've got bead caps around the 8mm beads. I've got a 6mm, 8mm, 6mm spacer bead, 2 of the lantern beads, spacer bead, 6mm, 8mm, 6mm spacer bead, 2 of the lantern beads. And then I have 3 of the 8mm at the center of my bracelet with spacer beads between them and on each side. And then I've got the same thing on this side that I do this side too. Lantern beads, a spacer bead, 6mm, 8mm, 6mm spacer bead, 2 lantern beads, spacer beads, 6mm, 8mm, 6mm. And now all I have to do is put my clasp on here. So I've got some 5mm jump rings. Just put my clasp on here really easy. I said it was real easy, didn't I? Locate the slit in my jump ring here. We go, there's my little bracelet. So hold on, I'll get my stuff to make my earrings and I'll be back. Okay, I'm going to make a little earring now. I've got my piece of 22 gauge German style wire. This is about 3.5 inches long. I'm going to go down about an inch. Bend the wire over at a 90-degree angle, and I think I'm zoomed in way too much. I'm going to take my round nose pliers and put them in the crook of the bend. Round nose pliers facing me. Bend the wire back until it hits the tool. Rotate the pliers till they're facing the table. Get this part under until it hits the bottom of the tool. Kink the wire back until the loop is centered over the wire. I'm going to take my bent chain nose pliers and hold on to my loop. Bring this part down and push this part up a little because I want the long piece of wire to be coming out of the center of the loop. Now I'm going to wrap the short piece of wire around the long piece of wire 3 times. I'm going to take my cutters and cut off my wire, and I use a different pair of cutters for craft wire and head pins and eye pins than I do for bead stringing wire. Now I'm going to do a lantern bead, bead cap, 8mm bead, bead cap, and a lantern bead. I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to go to the very tip of the pliers. Straighten my wire up a little bit here. Bend the wire over at a 90-degree angle. round nose pliers and put them in the crook of the bend. Round nose pliers facing me. Bend the wire back until it hits the beads. Rotate the pliers till they're facing the table. This part under here until it hits the bottom of the tool. Kink the wire back until the loop is centered over the beads. Like that. Take my bent chain nose pliers and hold on to my loop. Bring this part down. Push this part up a little. I'm going to take my other pair of bent chain nose pliers and start to wrap. I'm just going to wrap till there's no more room to wrap, which should be 3 times. I'm going to take my cutters and cut off my extra wire. And now I'm going to take my crimping pliers. I like to use these crimping pliers with the little half circles on each end to tuck in the burrs when I cut off wire. Tuck in my little burrs. Now I'm going to take my little star charm. It already had the little jump ring on it. And find the slit in the jump ring. And open up my jump ring. Thread it onto this little link that I've made. Close the jump ring back. I'm going to take my ear wire and open it up. Thread my earring on and make sure I get it facing the right way. And close my ear wire back. So there's my earring. So I'm going to make the other one off camera, and then I'll get everything laid out here so we can see it all together, and I'll be back. Okay, there's my necklace and bracelet and pair of earrings made with some of the beads and bindings that came in the August 2025 bargain bead box called Bohemian Nights. Like I said, I always love all of their boxes, but I just thought this one was especially pretty. And of course, I've still got lots and lots of beads left. And if you're not subscribed to the box and you decide you want to be, that coupon code will save you $2 off your first box if you sign up. I hope you all have enjoyed this video. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate those of you who have subscribed to my channel and watched my videos and liked and commented on my videos. I have a website where I sell my jewelry and some grab bags of extra beads that I have. It's Teresa's Handmade Jewelry, and I'll put a link to it in the description box below in case you're interested, along with a link to my Facebook, Instagram, and my email. If you haven't, I'd really love it if you'd subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're notified when I upload a new video. So until next time, I hope y'all have a great day. Take care.